Welcome to Lock It Down Sports. I'm your host, Locke Hoover. You can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on Twitter. You can also follow us at E5280 Sports. That's E5280 Sports on Twitter. That's the website. So wherever you want to follow us, you can. And today on the show, Deion Sanders is at it again. I'll tell you what I mean by that. How this team has bucked a trend and has paid off in major ways. And if this is a smart move by Netflix. But first, this is what I want to get into the top of the show today. And that is the draft and what the Atlanta Falcons did. And mainly the well talked about controversial pick that for many might say is the quarterback position in Michael Penix. And interesting pick. It surprised me a little bit. If you saw the draft show that we did last week, we were a lot of us here from the network were talking about the draft. We did a draft show and our thoughts and all that. And the Penix pick surprised me a little bit, but I'm okay with it. And that seems a little bit crazy to me, but I'll tell you why. If you think Cousins is going to work out, then you would never be drafting as high as 8 again, potentially for the next 4 years. You're in the bottom half because you're a playoff team. And that's, I think, what the Falcons were. One of the things they were in the process, their thought process on that. Now, there's moaning and groaning and complaining that the Falcons have so many needs, so many options that you go with a quarterback when you just signed Kirk Cousins to a $180 million deal. Yeah, of course there are other needs. But then when you look at the rest of the draft, they end up selecting four linemen, three defensive tackles, and a defensive end. And you said the 3 tackles, well, they can be pass rush guys now. We've seen that in the league. One on their own team, currently in Grady Jarrett, it gets to the quarterback, tackles for losses, sacks, can be a disruptor. And that can be a route to go at defensive tackle to get the pass rush. Obviously, they also drafted defensive end as well, but they have addressed the defensive line up front. So they addressed that area, maybe not a quote-unquote top-tier talent in a first-rounder, but also with the Penix draft pick, theoretically and technically, Cousins could be on a 2-year deal. If the Falcons want to get out of it, they can. Of course, it would be a small cap hit, but basically the first 2 years of Cousins' deal are all guaranteed. So you're tied in for 2 years, and if you want to get out of it, you can. Now, remember, Cousins is coming off a torn Achilles. So it's not like he's scot-free, healthy, coming into OTAs and training camp and all that. He's got a healed up Achilles. He's working to get back. So also keep that in mind. Cousins is an older quarterback too. It's not like he's a young 24-year-old, 25-year-old coming in, not playing a ton of football. He's played a lot of football. Now, I think another thing with this, and it's always the case, you can't win if you don't have a quarterback. I mean, that's obvious, right? If you don't have a quarterback, you've got no chance in the league. Well, the Falcons got their quarterback in Kirk Cousins. They also got their quarterback in 2, 3, or 4 years in Penix Jr. Now, Penix is going to learn. He's going to sit there 2 years, maybe 3, and learn from Cousins, learn about the NFL, soak in the system Raheem Morris and the Falcons are putting in. And people want to bring up the age factor. For Penix, to me, it does not bother me one bit. Yes, he's 24, but if he plays 12 years, that puts him at 36. Or, you know what? Let's just go say he plays 14 years because he doesn't start until he's 27 or 28. That puts him at 37 and 38. And maybe those later years, he's still a little bit more fresh. Yeah, he's older, but he's fresher because he hasn't played as much quarterback early on in the league. All those hits. If he keeps in good shape, arm, why not? I don't see the issue. Also, with that, I mean, if Penix produces, it could potentially allow you to continue that trend that teams like to do if they can continue to set up the success, the future, the franchise of your team by maybe drafting another quarterback late in the draft. Maybe you're drafting a quarterback at 32 because you just won the Super Bowl. I know I said Falcons and Super Bowl and Michael Penix all in the same sentence, which is crazy, I know. But that's what you're working for. That's your ultimate goal, to hoist the trophy, right? Or even if it is, like I said, later in the draft when Penix is rolling, then it could be like the Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love situation. People are wanting to say, no, you can't compare the Falcons, what the Falcons did to what the Green Bay Packers did because the Packers are a playoff team already with Aaron Rodgers and drafting Jordan Love late in the first round for him to sit and learn because Jordan Love was raw. So you don't want to say that situation now? Fine. That's okay. What about in 8, 9 years maybe? Long-term play now, interesting enough, Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot might not be here because that's the nature of the NFL. If you don't win in 3, 4 years, you're gone. Maybe 5 if you're lucky. So it's that short window, and it is kind of risky, especially when you just signed Kirk Cousins, and that signals you to be in a win-now situation. Why else would you go out there and give Kirk Cousins a 4-year deal, 2 guaranteed, with the pieces you have offensively around you, if you didn't think you could win now in a weak division? You might have the best quarterback in your division now. And to me, Kirk Cousins nowhere near a top-tier quarterback. I mean, he's okay. There's nothing to scoff at. He's an okay quarterback. Is he top tier? Is he elite? No. And that's some of the rub when it comes to this. This guy, why do you bring in Kirk Cousins? Is he your bridge guy? That's an expensive bridge guy if that's the case. That's been some talk. But there's been reports that the Falcons tried to trade back up in the first round to get an immediate starter. It's like, why are you bringing Kirk Cousins in and not having an immediate starter in the first round? Guaranteed starter. Now you've got a guy who's not going to step on the field for 2, 3, maybe 4 years. You bring Kirk Cousins in to win now. You don't get an immediate start in the first round. Like I said, they tried to from our reports, but they failed and they weren't successful in trading up to get their guy, whoever the guy was. It was Porter is maybe a defensive end, the defensive end out of UCLA. Reports, once again, who knows? It's reports and all that. Now, like I mentioned, Cousins, good quarterback, solid quarterback, and he can get you to the playoffs. Can you win you a Super Bowl? Which is your goal? I don't think so. But what it does do, it gets some of your players and your guys playoff experience. It gets them that taste, and it's different. You see it all the time. You hear it all the time, man. That playoff experience we had 2 years ago, that's propelled us to where we are today, and our different take of how we're playing, the taste of it, the taste of the NFL playoffs, and we want it more. It's just a different feel. You hear it in all sports: baseball, basketball, hockey, football. I mean, you hear it. It's building that next step for players. And I think also, too, it's been reported, and we've seen it in drafts of some head scratchers of, wow, there might be other needs in previous drafts by the Falcons and Terry Fontenot. Reported that, Fontenot takes the best player available on his draft board, right? That's been reported. We've kind of maybe seen that with previous picks, with Kyle Pitts, with Robinson. Well, Penix they had as the number 2 overall quarterback on their board and third best overall player. If that is the case and is true, and you got him at 8, that's a value pick, right? If you look at it that way, it's a value pick. We get our third best player at 8. So obviously all this is going to be a wait and see. You can't grade a draft now. Give it 3-4 years to say, oh, you look back, that's a great draft. And I feel like there's a lot that Fontenot and Raheem Morris are doing, banking on the future, that some of this stuff works, so they hit and they're ready to go in that future, and they'll still be in position as GM and head coach. Wait and see, as always, all draft reports and grades are, but long term, I think I'm okay with the Falcons drafting Michael Penix. Now, there's always something going on in Colorado. There's always news around the Colorado Buffs program when you have Deion Sanders as your head coach. Now, I'll get into some of the later tweets here in a minute, but after his most recent tweets, I don't know if you saw them or not, why would any player who is elite, solid, or even average want to come play for Deion after this? I feel like if you're not one of Deion's guys, he doesn't know you. Bro, who are you, man? I mean, in 2023, his first year, when he cut guys and told them to leave the program, that's okay, that's fine. You're 1-11, so you have to make some wholesale changes, right? Yeah, I mean, that's not out of the ordinary. But some players come outside. Once they were gone, they were gone. They weren't even able to go to the locker room to collect their personal items. They were gone. Now, did they get them shipped to them? I don't know. But they weren't. Hopefully, they didn't have anything too important in their lockers. That's not how you treat players. Even if you release them, even if you cut them, yes, it's basically treated like the NFL, but don't NFL players at least get to go collect their belongings and their locker room before they're cut? I would think so. I mean, that's at least a common courtesy. Hey, get your stuff before you get out of here. And then also, we've seen players come out and say, what he told Xavier Smith. He was a safety to hit the portal. When he was talking with him, he said he didn't even look at him. When he was speaking to him about, hey man, you need to hit the portal, he was looking right at Charles Kelly. Xavier Smith was. Now, like I said, I don't think it's not out of the ordinary for coaches to suggest to players, hey, you might want to find another option here. You're probably not going to play here, and might be best if you hit the portal. But for the head coach to even speak to his former player like a man, like his current player at that time, like he's a man, like he's a human being, like, look, stare him right in the eyes, talk to him, like, look, you might need to find another route. You might want to go another direction. Player, I think in that case, especially this day and age of college football, understand that. But to be treated like that would piss me off. And it did piss him off, Xavier Smith. Also, too, is another low blow to me. Deion's son, look at the starting quarterback, Deion Sanders, has called Xavier Smith, his former teammate, mid at best, bro. Yeah. Like father, like son, kind of in my thoughts. Interesting quote too from him. Obviously, it shows his confidence he has, and also he's confident he doesn't think it'll affect his draft stock. Which, I mean, why would it, right? If he's the number one overall pick, sure. I mean, there's no guarantee. There's other good quarterbacks in there as well. Carson Beck, Erie out of not Erie, Texas quarterback. It's blanking me right now. Those two good quarterbacks could be projected first round picks, maybe number one overall. Who knows? Sanders could end up going lower in the first round than expected, and that would be a loss in draft status. He could drop out of the first round. You don't know how the draft is. I mean, secondly, too, what Spencer Rattler said and how he acted in the high school, his high school reality show that was filmed on Netflix is believed to affect his draft stock. This was high school. This was Sanders as a junior leading into a senior year of college. That's a long time in gap wise. High school for Rattler potentially affected him based on what GM's opinion of was him, potentially hurt his draft stock. Versus what a quarterback said going into his senior year of college. Yeah, there's some name attached to it, and that's the effect you get. But I don't think in the NFL, GMs and coaches play games. They know they're on the line every year, potentially get fired, especially if you're drafting that first round. And that quarterback, you're either a new coach that's got 3 or 4 years, or you're in a second or third year and you're rebuilding, and you're in that rebuilding phase of looking and needing that quarterback. So, yeah, there's a difference, but still. Another thing, too, Xavier Smith said Deion never tried to get to know him and also said he was destroying confidence and belief in them. Said Deion could have at least been a little bit more compassionate. I mean, on Smith's end though, I think he should have understood that and known there might not be as much compassion from Deion based on Deion Sanders' career and how he is. That's Deion. That's his style. That's his flair. That's who he is as a person, as a media personality, and as a coach. So on Smith's end, that's a little bit know what you're getting into. Then Deion also went after someone on Twitter after someone told him to stop acting like he'd be the coldest here, then put up a 4-8. Deion response was, he'll be top 5. Where your son going? LOL. I got time. LOL. I saw that and I was like, you're going after a nobody, some random person on Twitter because he went after your son and he went after you for being 4-8. I don't know if this guy's a Colorado fan or if he's just one of the 9 million other trolls on Twitter. But you look at there's no coach like Deion. I think we can all agree on that. But you look around college football, past and present, some of the coaches who have some of the best quotes, have the most fun and little digs going after coaches and universities and all that. Obviously, the great Steve Spurrier and all his comments. And then Lane Kiffin currently. But interesting enough, and not really interesting, not a surprise, neither of them have publicly gone after a gone after a player, or gotten a spat with a random person on Twitter. Like, it's Twitter. I think also, too, you've never seen, I don't think you ever will or hear of all the best coaches in the league, such as Kirby, Urban Meyer when he was at Florida, and Ohio State, Saban, Dabo, Harbaugh, bash his former players that enter the portal. Hey, you came, it didn't work out. And that's also a slippery slope when it comes to Deion. That's your recruiting base too. The portal's your recruiting base. Since you don't recruit high school kids, that's your recruiting base. I mean, I don't think, like I said, he's not going to be able to, if he can't recruit elite kids in high school. And I don't know if it's going to be if he's going to be able to continue to get elite players in high school and the portal. Sometimes there's a reason they're in the portal. Other times there's not. Other times they just want to get paid by the highest bidder. And some of it's playing time. But the entire 31-man 2022 recruiting class is now gone. And the top 2 players from this 2023 class are now gone. Yeah, usually when you have a new coach in, there's turnover and you're going to have a lot of guys leave. But your entire 31-man class, that hurts your depth. And then your top 2 players in 2023 have already left. You're going to have to replace his entire offensive line, as no one from the 2023 class is there this year. Once again, had you continued to build depth and sustain success with all that churn that you have in the program, especially on the offensive line. Yeah, there's always a few new offensive linemen every year based on graduations and transfers, but there's some continuity on the offensive line. I mean, if I'm a college or a high school recruit, I mean, why would I want to go play for Deion at this point? It looks like the novelty of going to play for Deion could be over. It's okay. I see what he's done. I see how he's treated players. If I'm just a mid player, as I'm called by his son, do I want to go to Buffalo? Be a Buffalo? Do I want to be a Buff? Do I want to go to the University of Colorado? I think also some of this, of course, it's not going to. Deion's not going to say this, but I think it reflects on Deion Sanders. It shows that he can't develop kids if they're not already studs. I mean, that is an ultimate, I think, reflection on a coach and why kids go there. To be developed, to be a NFL player. Year after year after year, why did so many kids go to Alabama, even in the NIL era, when they knew they were going to get less money? It was a long-term development of, in 3 years, I'm going to be a first-round pick. Now, if he's only there one more year because of his son, that's a different story. I don't care. Let me try to sign 2 free agent classes, give him as much NIL as possible, get my kid to be a top 5 pick, and then see ya. I'm out. It was fun at Colorado. I'm done. I mean, Colorado, though, can't backtrack from this. They know this is where they're at, and they should be fine with it. They knew what they were potentially going to get as Deion with their head coach. Also, too, he's not winning right now. If he wins, some of this will change, because if you win, that's all that matters. Al Davis said just win, right? That's why I believe he hadn't got a big Power 4 job yet as well. Some of these antics that universities knew they were going to have to deal with. Now, if he wins, things get thrown on the rug and it's fine. But until he does that, 6-6, 5-7, 7-5, a big program's not bringing you in. So that's where Deion is, and it's not really a big surprise about that. Another thing is not a big surprise is the Atlanta Braves and their success, and part of their success. It's not earth-shattering, but it is very interesting, some of the numbers. And I'm so thankful about this from the Atlanta Braves. They don't believe in load management, and I'm not a believer in it really either. So since 2018, 18 players have played at least 155 games. The next closest teams are Philly and Seattle with 10 players. It's an 8-player difference. That's a lot to me. Also, the only other playoff teams who have made the postseason at least 3 times, the Dodgers have had 6 players play 155 games. The Astros 5, Tampa 0, Minnesota 1, Milwaukee none, the Yankees 4, and then Philly 11. So the load management part with the Braves, yes, they've got good players since 2018, but know what they also do? They also play every single night. And that's been a culture that the Braves have had over this time span with Snitker. with Alex Anthopoulos, you play. And if you're good, you're going to play. Yes, and I also think this would have been higher. For example, if Ozzie hadn't got hurt some years, and of course, Acuna tears ACL, it would have been higher. I believe this is like the same as throwing as a pitcher to stay healthy. The more you throw, the healthier you are. Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz, what did they do? They throw more. They threw more. Players know how to deal with a nick, a bang up here. Work through things. They know how to work with their bodies, control their bodies, and that's important. That matters. Playing every day is a thing, and it's been a successful formula for the Braves. Yes, like I said, it helps to have good players, but you also play your good players to win. And they won a World Series in that time period as well. And on that time period, in that team, Dansby, he played every day. Freddie, he played every day. Riley, he played every day. Your core guys. I can't say the same for the outfield because you had a banged up outfield. That's your core guy. That was your core team. Your stars, your superstars, leaders playing every day. Ozzie as well. He was nicked up, but when he was out there, he was playing. He didn't want to sit. And that matters. Playing matters. And it's good for the game, I believe, because don't get me into load management. What a joke the NBA is when it comes to load management. How'd load management turn out for the Lakers and LeBron James? That turned out all right, huh? But yeah, playing every day matters, and the proof is in the pudding with their success. Now, I read this a little bit ago, and it kind of surprised me when it was saying that Netflix is not going to be disclosing its streaming numbers starting in 2025. And I was like, that's odd. That's very interesting that Netflix has decided not to disclose its streaming numbers when I thought that's what they were all about, getting and gaining numbers. So with that being said, I wonder if this is going to affect them potentially bringing in sports. Now, they said that they aren't in this sports streaming business, but aren't leagues going to want to know kind of to even consider Netflix want to know what they're doing ratings wise, aka subscription based wise, and how many eyeballs are on them? I mean, internally they might tell professional leagues this, maybe not. So I don't know. And before you jump all over me about, yes, Locke, they are streaming sports. Look, the WWE's there, and I say, hold up. WWE doesn't count. They're a scripted sports drama. And that's fine. That fits Netflix. It's a scripted based television show and content. That's what Netflix is all about. And then you have all these old shows you can go watch, aka that's what it is, old shows. Yes, they have some their new content only, but Netflix is a good fit for WWE, a sports-based drama show with angles and different takes and different directions to go. It's a written live drama that's scripted out. But I think this could be a tester for these other leagues to see what WWE does, because there's a lot of crossover fans. There's WWE fans, and then there's baseball, basketball, football fans, to see how much of the draw they get for WWE fans. Yeah, there's WWE fans and there's non-sports fans, of course. But there's some crossover, and I think there's going to be a viewing to see what happens with that, and if they want to get back, if they want to get in the sports game. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on Twitter. I'm Locke Hoover. You've been listening to Lock It Down Sports. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.